Money, they say, answers all things. Today we are talking about money and the covenant marriages. And to share on this interesting yet crucial topic, we have brought, for our viewing pleasure, two financial experts who will be helping us discuss it. You will be delighted that you listen to this particular episode of Covenant Marriages.
That's right. Please do not forget to follow us on all our socials at Covenant Marriages. And also, please share, like, and subscribe to this channel, The Covenant Nation. Covenant Marriages will be right back with gist and talks on finances in marriages.
Covenant Marriages.
Welcome back to Covenant Marriages. Today, we will be talking about managing finances in family. We're talking about money, Omo.
Yes, so it's all about the money. I'm not saying that one. So we're having the Okoros come to speak with us about money. Good enough, both of them have accounting background or finance background. In fact, tax background. One of them has a tax background. And as such, I'm sure it's going to be a very, very interesting conversation. Please, wherever you are, welcome with me with a round of applause. Please be clapping on the Okoros.
Yeah, welcome, Sam.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So Sam, starting off, why is money and finances such a crucial issue in marriage?
Omo, I'll answer that question by asking you a question. This suit you're wearing, how did you get it?
It was a seed.
But the person that sowed the seed spent some money to get it for you.
Key.
All right, money is important in marriage because for you to keep the home, pay the bills, and also achieve the goals you have set as couple, you need money. And you know money doesn't fall from the tree. So when you get money through working, then you also have to plan on how to use it.
Wow.
So inappropriate plan of the use of money then creates an issue.
Inappropriate plan and the use of money creates issue. And apparently many of us plan inappropriately or don't even have plans at all. So please help us. Thinking of planning, how would you say is the best way to plan family finances?
When you use the word best, it means that you have determined that there is one way that you can plan your finance in marriage that works for everybody.
Okay, so correct me.
No, I just want to clarify. All right, so in managing finance, when it has to do with marriage relationship, we won't say there is a clear-cut way of doing it, that every marriage should follow this pattern. Just like it applies to every other issues in marriage relationship, you need to consider the circumstances of the couple, their peculiarities and realities, to determine what works for them. However, there are key things that need to be considered and the couples need to know. One, you need to know that it's important to operate in oneness. So it doesn't matter how much you earn as a couple. If you're not operating together, if you operate as two separate individuals living together without having that oneness and having a goal, then it becomes a challenge. Secondly, you need to know that whatever you have, the money you have and other resources you have in marriage actually come from God. So with that in mind, then you're able to then look at your peculiarities and say, okay, fine, this money comes from God, okay? And we have agreed to work together as couple, looking at the same picture, striving to achieve the same goal. Then you also look at what do we need to consider in planning our resources.
So for you as a wife and as a couple, were there mistakes? Is there any mistake that you could have, you can recall, maybe an illustration as it relates to finances and managing your
Why
finances?
did you do that? And thank God you're the one that directed it to us.
Well, let me think back. Yes, I mean, I can remember vividly one lesson, that we learned early in marriage, which has really helped us. And that was the days of no specto
Word solution.
and wealth solution. You know what they call MMM now?
Word gates.
Yeah. And I was glad we entered into that at the early stage of our marriage. So what happened was, in the office then, I think I just joined the corporation I work with then. And they told us that, well, someone came and said, I mean, if you bring an amount, you get double of the amount. So I went home and I told my husband that there's this thing that is happening, that let's invest in it. When we got married in 2005, we had savings for our daughter. We didn't have a child then, but we started saving for the children before we started having children.
Wow.
So I now told him that the child had not come. Then I think she had not come, or probably she was very young. That's the total of the money that we had been saving. I think by then we had had a child. The money they gave us during our naming ceremony, our own family savings, we gathered everything together and we invested into MMM. Other people that told me actually got their money. But before it was my turn, everything crashed. We had bills to pay. In fact, I can recall we had a visa to go to London, and the visa was 6 months. So, which meant that there was no money to travel.
Wow.
And the visa was going to expire. I think we just bought a land that we're meant to pay in installments. So the next installment was due. So we had several bills.
We had to defer payment of our rents.
So our rent,
Everything was.
I mean, it was a very foolish decision, I must say. And for me, that was a very good lesson at that time of our lives, because it shaped a lot of things. And that's why for me, if you want to do investments and you don't do proper due diligence in terms of what are the people investing your money in, can you see the products and all those, the regular due diligence, we won't do it anymore.
Wow.
We don't. So that was the wrong business, what's it called, financial decision, and that was the last.
But no cold feet with investment, because you have still tried again as a couple.
And of course, because we understand the fact that you just have to invest.
I think what happened then was we were very conservative, and when the idea was brought to us, initially we laughed at it and we said we won't go for this. But we realized that some people that went in came out. I have a friend that actually went in, came out, bought a car.
Wow.
And then we now sat back and said, okay, fine, rather than keeping this money in the bank. And then I had, normally what we do then, that I used to receive a bulk payment. And once it comes like 2 months before the rent. So we dedicated that payment, that amount to payment of rent. So we put it in a separate account. So why don't we just, since everybody is going in and coming out safely, okay, so why don't we just put this money there? And it's just 1 month. So within 1 month, we're out. We just be praying and hoping that nothing goes wrong. We're out, and we're able to sort our rent, sort other things, then travel happily, and we'll come back. And that was actually, those were the considerations we had. But just like my wife said, it's a good thing we had that experience at that stage of our marriage, because it further strengthened our resolve not to, just jump into things because people are jumping into it. Before we get into things now, we need to take a step back and look at it critically and ask ourselves the question, is it really worth it? And then look ahead. It's okay, what are the risks? When it comes to risk, I'm very, very risk averse. She's a risk taker, so we try to balance ourselves. So, but after the experience, somehow we've been able to, God has helped us, to always think before we take decisions.
No, I should ask this. Did you plan to marry a finance person so that, it just occurred to me that, sir, you are a finance person, you are even not just a finance person, you are a tax person. Did you plan to marry?
You're asking a very important question that will take us time to actually explain. All right, so both of us were working in the same organization.
Okay.
Okay, while I was in audit, she was in tax.
Oh.
Wow.
With Deloitte, yeah.
Yeah, Deloitte. So when I have tax issues, I will go to tax. Not for the purpose of seeing her or anything. I'm just telling you. Okay, so there was this engagement I was assigned to handle, and then I was much younger in the firm. I wasn't supposed to go on that engagement. I came back to the office and they told me, Chigozie, you've been assigned to go on this engagement. I said, why? That was the question I asked, because I was targeting another engagement, but somehow it didn't work out that way. But then, in those days, I still listened to Christian music, a lot, especially those soft ones. So I had a lot of piles of CDs. I would put them by my side. I would be playing, put my earpiece, doing my work. Then she came with someone else to do tax review. I think I met her in the office a couple of times. But when she came in my usual self, normal self, nothing attached, I found a seat for her. She sat down just to make her comfortable. And in the process, and I realized she also loves Christian music, soft music. So we started exchanging CDs. And from there, and it continued, normal friendship. We came back to the office, went on another engagement separately, but then we connected somehow. So we became friends. One thing led to the other, and
Today we are here.
So, okay, sorry, my
Okay, and there was when it came to that, when I got to that place where he was doing the audit, he greeted me, and in fact, when I saw him, I was like, I've never seen this person. Is he part of Deloitte? And they said yes, and he said they used to greet me in the office. That I didn't used to answer. I said I didn't even notice anybody was greeting me. And that was how we became friends. And I think when we got back to the office, like he said, then he went on another assignment, one of the FMCGs. And one day he came looking for me and brought packs of treble. So when he brought it, I was like, oh, thank you. So I went back to meet the guys in tax. I said, auditor gave me treble. So they were like, Mary, auditor gave you treble. Why you? Why not somebody else? I said, no, don't worry, nothing. It's just a friend. But of course, after that, a friend, we're here almost 17 years after.
Okay, so who is the spender, who is the saver among both of you?
Okay, let me answer that question by saying that when it comes to spending, I find it difficult to spend.
Okay.
You know what they call akagom? So I used to be akagom probably because of the way I grew up. And before I spend, I will need to really think, and just to make sure that I'm not wasting the money. But she's prudent, and in terms of planning, she is more effective in planning than myself. And so in the family finance, what we do is, of course, we had to do what we call an assessment to discover the strength and weakness of, ourselves. So in terms of being able to plan, allocate resources to this, we need to spend money on this, we need to spend money on that, she does it very well. But for me, I'll just calculate, I want to buy this, I'll go straight and buy it. But then sitting down to look at considering other alternatives, I wasn't doing that. So spending, she spends, but prudently, but I spend also. I'm very, very
So I would say I'm the spender, actually. I spend more. And like you said, maybe it's because of background, My father was a businessman, and he used to spend. I spend, but I plan. So for me, finance does not mean you shouldn't spend. Do you understand? You can spend money. You've got to enjoy yourself. So make the money, plan it in a way that you make the money, you will plan to save, you would invest, and you will spend. So there's a balance. So I can't be keeping money and I won't spend and I will look miserable. So what's the point of making the money? So I'm not a slave to money.
Oh.
You make the money, plan it properly, spend, and do other things. So it's a balance for me.
So talking about planning, like
Yeah.
what are practical things that you do in terms of, planning your finances that can help couples listening?
Okay, for us, and sincerely, I think we started early with some, I can't even remember where we got it from, but somehow, I mean, at the early stage of our marriage, we started having meetings. Yes.
Financial
As
meetings.
in-
No, we call it family meeting.
meeting.
Meetings.
Even when we didn't have children. So we sit down, have a review, we had a budget of all the expenses. What do I say expenses? What's the smallest thing? Maggi.
Wow.
So yes, so we drew up a list of everything from rice, Maggi, parents, what you give to people, as in everything,
Even what you give to people.
everything.
Yeah.
We had
No
a budget.
black tax.
In terms of our parents, then, strictly parents, my parents, his parents, so we had a budget. And we now decided and said, okay, this is the total amount we would need on a monthly basis. So both of us decided and said, okay, out of your income, how much would you be contributing? How much will I contribute? And my husband is an Igbo man, and for Igbos, they believe that it's their responsibility, to take care of everything. And I will tell him, see, God did not create only one person in this world. Otherwise, the person will suffer. So, and God gave me to you, to help. And since I was also working and I earn money, that I'm actually here to support. And okay, it will tell me how much am I ready to bring, and I will say what it is, and it will say okay, and we'll put it up. So on a monthly basis, he would, transfer his own portion to me, and I would do the, spending and all that. So that's how, we've been able to do it. And you see, another thing I noticed is as you grow older in marriage, and with that oneness that my husband mentioned, that is very, very important. You must have the same objective. You must have the same objective. That's the only way you can succeed managing your money together in a marriage. That is very key. So because we, and as you grow, you will start doing things, you'll be better at it. So we got to a point, when we had to do an investment that we didn't plan for in terms of, opportunity came up, and we realized that, okay, we wanted to buy some, I think a land or something. And at that point, I think we had maybe, the money was not even up to half. And the moment we got there, and they called the amount, in fact, my husband just turned, and I just called him back, okay, calm down, we'll buy it. And he looked at me, buy what, where, how, and I just told the people that don't worry, we'll come back, that we're very interested. So now way home, my husband said, Mary, where will you get money for that? I said, don't worry, let's get home. So when we got home, we sat down, and I said, okay, I will bring my pay slip, bring your pay slip again. We sat down and we looked at it. I said, every month, this is what will come in. So out of this amount, how much is the children's school fees again? We got it out. We said, if we're dividing it into every month, such that by the end of the quarter, we'll have this amount to pay school fees. So we did all the analysis that day. And I told him, see, I am a member of cooperative. He is also a member of cooperative. If I go to cooperative, I can get a loan, and we'll be able to pay back, instrumental every month, and we'll pay back the cooperative, and we'll be able to get the property that we wanted to buy. And that was how we did it. So every month, it will send me money for school fees. It will send me money for the house keeps, his own portion of it and all that. And that's how, and then we're able to pay back the cooperative. So, as you go on, before then, we never had any debt. We didn't have exposure. But because there was an opportunity for us to buy something, and when we sat down, in fact, it was like less than an hour. And one thing we also do, before we have this conversation, we actually pray when we have this meeting. And the reason why we do that is because, you see, you are human, and we need God's wisdom, to decide. Because sometimes, there's a scripture that says there's a way that seemeth right, but the end thereof is destruction. So there are times that you see opportunities that are looking very okay, that, using every parameter that you have known, that they taught you in school, that you've experienced and everything. And at the end of the day, you might not get the desired outcome. So when we go into such meetings, we tell God to be the chairperson, and help us to take the right decision. So when, you know, and that's what we've been doing over the years. We sit down, plan, and for that particular, you know, investment, we're able to go into it. I mean, our money did not buy one. Eventually, we bought 2 plots
Wow.
of land,
Yeah.
which we didn't have the money at that time. But if we had said no,
You'll have
in fact, my
this.
husband turned and said, I said, come back. I just told him to come down. And we got back home, we sat down. And after that, I mean, several, God has helped us through it. And
And what that also helped us to achieve is we were able to cut down on some expenses that were not necessary because we
Sir, please give an example. What are expenses that are not necessary?
okay. So one of the things that we did then that was really helped us to also manage our expenses was we started, like, when I go into the office, I go with food. Okay, so it helps to cut down on what I spend outside in terms of food. Then cook and all those things that you can do without. You
the truth
we started
about it
counting
is when it comes to expenses, what I say is you need to see is a deliberate action. Finance, I'm not saying that everybody has all the money at once, but I'm saying that from wherever it is that you are at, you can start from there.
Thank you, ma, for mentioning this one. So, there is a couple. They just got married. They have blown money on wedding, in quotes, as Naija wedding, Bella Naija kind of wedding. They're about to start. Husband earns 150,000. Wife earns 150 or 100,000 or 200,000. She earns more than the husband.
Yeah, it's possible.
It is not enough considering the rents that they are going to be paying, transportation, commuting to work and all that. Let's plan this 150 plus 200, 350,000.
Okay. Let me tell you, 350,000. I know things are expensive today, but what I tell people is don't run another man's race. That is the starting point. Don't run another man's race. If you know what your income is, where can you live that there is cheap rent as of today? I don't have any problem. You will get to Banana Island.
Amen.
But start from where it is, where you are as of today. Number 2, like my husband said, I started cooking food. It's even healthier to cook your food at home. And I pack his food. I don't like cook all those fizzy drinks. So that is even out. When I first got married to my husband, he would stack the fridge with Coca-Cola, Fanta, malt. I now told, how many guests do we have that you are stacking? You are the one that will finish.
As a big
You
boy.
know, the drinks and the wine. So let's remove it. It's not necessity. It's luxury. And we took it out. You know, so you look at the things that are very important. Must you use bone straight at that stage? You don't have to. You don't have to. So you need to be very fair, as in be very objective. Don't try to impress other people. I can tell you, whatever your income is, you would always find out, is there someone in your area that goes to your office and has a car? Be friendly with people. People will help you. You can never be stranded. I tell people, I can never be stranded in this life. It's not possible. Because sincerely, I can't. I'm a believer and God loves me. And I will be nice to people. People will show up.
So, I understand. But realistically, what percentage should go into rent? What percentage should go into this? What percentage? And there's still savings on this money.
See, when we started, I think we're doing 10% of our income into savings.
10%.
10%. That's the minimum.
10%.
As in after my tithes.
Okay.
I mean, tithes for me is number 1. Then you will now ask. See, it depends on. There's no clear-cut rule, especially when you are starting, and that's what I say. I won't tell you at a point I started doing 20. There are times I do 50. Stages. You understand? Stages about in income, stages in life. So when you know your income is, I just try as much as possible to save something every month. look at your peculiarity and sit down. Tell yourself, what are the things that if you don't do, then something would happen in terms of you won't be able to live. Those are the things that are your, the core priority. Food, clothing. Clothing has level. That's the truth. There's tailor that will collect 5,000 naira. You don't have to go to the one that will collect 40,000 when your salary cannot afford it. There's hair for this hair, 300,000, 500. There's one, I'm sure there's 20,000. There's 10,000. Why do you want to go and buy the one that is up to your per annum salary? For me, I would say that, sit down, do an analysis of what are the fundamentals, what are the most important necessities in the house. But as a thumb rule, try to save something every month. Every month. No matter, I'll give an example of this pension fund. I realized that we started doing pension about maybe 2005, 2006, 2004. And when they sent me my balance recently, I realized that it was double what I've been saving for those years. Double. I was shocked. And that tells you the power of consistency in finance. So consistency is what is important. And don't keep your money in savings account. Please invest your money.
So, sir, in terms of raising your children and making them aware about financing and about, all of managing finance, are there tips that you can give? Do you practically teach your children about money?
Yeah, so I will answer that question by saying that whatever value you have imbibed in as a person, you need to also get your children into it. So what we do by way of getting them to understand the importance of savings and also having financial discipline, we talk to them. Just like my wife said that before we started having children, we used to have family meetings. So even after we started having children, we have family meetings, an extended one, where it's not just money we discuss. It's like a feedback session where we sit down in the living room and then discuss. They will tell us, this is what we are doing that we don't like.
Interesting.
And then we discuss it. And we also say, this is what you have done and we don't like. This is what we expect. So we set that clearly. So in terms of finance, at times, they want things. It's okay, you want to buy this, you want to buy this. And what we tell them is this: the fact that you have money does not mean that you spend the money on everything. You need to first of all define what is your need and also put aside what is your want. Of course, they will not like it because as children, if they tell you, I want mentors, I want this, I want this, I want this, everything together, and you're not getting it, they will show attitude. But for you as a parent, it's not, you can't just say you get angry with them and spank them or just tell them off. You see them there and explain to them why they shouldn't be looking out for all those things at the same time. That you need to plan for your money, and we tell them we do budget too. So whatever you're asking, if it does not fall within what we expected to spend now, sorry, we will not give you. It's not that the money is not there, but that money is meant for something else. That's one. And secondly, we look out for opportunities to talk to them. And I'll give you an example. Recently, I came back from work and I was very tired. So my second daughter, she's the one that wants to spend. She gets to the shop, she wants to pick. And we get home, we talk, and she will see it as if you don't want us to have this thing. So she brought her book. I said, okay, which of the subjects do you want us to revise? She says, business studies. I said, okay. So we started going through it, and she asked me a question about shares in a company. I said, that's an opportunity to talk to her about investment. And for you to get to the point of investment, you must have had some savings.
True.
So first of all, I explained what shares means, that for you to have shares in a company means that you are part owner of that company. And it doesn't just come by way of just thinking, and saying, I want to own this company. It starts by you setting some funds apart and gradually buy shares in that company. And she said, okay, at what stage? We had a very meaningful conversation. So, okay, if you're starting a company, it means that you're a promoter. So you're bringing your money, your friend brings, you both of you come together, register a company, and then, but If you want to then be a part owner of an existing company, it means that the money you have saved, you will buy shares in that company. And I ask you a question. If every day you go to the shop, you want to buy all those things you're asking us to buy, if, will you be able to put money aside to invest in this? She said, no. So what do you think you can do to be able to get to a point where you're a part owner of a company? It means that I need to cut down on my spendings. I said, okay, when you cut down on your spending, what do? You put it aside. I said, okay, it goes beyond savings. So when you save in a bank, you're giving bank money to trade. Okay, you're getting little returns on it. So you then move to the next level, which is investment. And it really helped. And my wife will share another experience she had with that same person, because for us, she was a source of concern to us, her attitude towards spending. But that created an opportunity for us to really communicate to her that, see, money comes in, yes. And I used to tell her that this house we're living now in, if we didn't save, we won't be able to have it. So I would like my wife to also share her own experience with her.
What I would say about parenting and finance is that sometimes you think they're not listening, but they are. There was a day I went to pick my daughter from school, and she was having a conversation with her friend. Then I heard them say, a friend now said, that it's very difficult to get money. Then my daughter said, no, it's not difficult. If you create value, you will get money.
Oh.
How old is she?
She's 13.
Okay.
In fact, I was the one driving, and I was like, interesting. So how do you create value? And how can you make money? You know, and she said, you know, because when I heard, I was surprised, really. And it occurred to me that sometimes when you say these things to them, you think they are not listening. And she explained to her friend to say, see, that yes, she will go to school to do whatever course it is she's going to do. But there are other things she can do in school to make money. And my daughter, apparently, at home, one day she came and told me that, Mommy, I want to, she just said I should buy flour, oil, and everything for chin-chin. And do you know she went to YouTube? And from beginning to the end, she made chin-chin.
Wow.
Took to school, a teacher saw the chin-chin and paid her for the chin-chin.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 13. So she told her friend that as it is now, she can make chin-chin and sell. Recently, she went to one of her friends. She told me that, Mommy, she wants to go to her friend's house. Her friend wants to teach her how to make shawarma. I said, okay, no problem. She went there. They taught her, in fact, this morning when she was going to school, before she went to school this morning, she made 5 shawarma, one for herself, one for her sister, one for her friend in school, then maybe 2 other people. And what did she tell me? In fact, she's been telling me, Mommy, I can't wait to finish my GS3 exam. I want to start my chin-chin and shawarma business.
Wow.
And this is the same person that spends. She can spend. When you get, and that thing I do for my children, they know. If you follow me to the shop and you are picking, there's no problem. But when we get to the counter, I will pay for what I need to pay for. You will pay for the rest. If you can afford it. Yes. And I've done it before. So they know. So before they pick, they will ask me, Mommy, should I pick? Yes, we are aligned, you can pick. Otherwise, when I get there, I will tell them at the counter, these ones are for me. These ones, they will handle it. And because they can, at least as of today, they cannot. So they know, they will ask before I buy. The other thing, so about training children, you need to be deliberate, you need to be consistent, and don't be discouraged. Because sometimes you think they are not listening, but they are actually listening.
Amazing.
So, this is a lot to take in, and I sincerely appreciate how you're using your experience again and again. But you've mentioned, before we go on break, you've mentioned something critical, and that is don't leave your money in the bank, and I think you also mentioned it, sir. So back to our hypothetical case of 350 per month as a couple, and you're saving 10%, that's 5,000 naira. What are the investment opportunities that are available, or how do you invest in the first place?
Okay.
Okay. Well, investments, there are different investment opportunities. And what I would say is you can start from mutual funds, though, I mean, the interest rate is not too fantastic, but because it's compounded, and you can start with as low as, I think, 5,000 naira. Yeah. So start with that. Like, the reason why I would not advise you to keep your money in the bank is because the interest that comes into that account is nothing, I mean, compared to inflation rate. So as of today, yes, your mutual fund will not cater for the inflation, but it is still better than you keeping it in the bank. A lot of people do crypto and all that. What I say is, yes, understand whatever it is that you're going to put your money in. Understand. Then if you have more money, you have dollar funds. So that would help you edge against devaluation. So don't, sorry, we're Nigerians, but as much as possible, just make sure you keep your money in a currency that will stand the test of time, you know. And you have mutual funds that, you have Euro bonds, you have a lot. And also ask yourself, what other skills do you have that you can use to generate income? Do something else aside, you know, your core everyday work. It's something that would forever help you. So don't just say, because this is what I do, this is what I've always learned to do. Just think, sit down and think about it. You could sell things that would generate, because like you said, expenses are growing by the day. School fees will not stop. All those things will come. So you need to really sit down and ask yourself, what else do you have that you can use to generate income? Because the more you have money, the more you can save and do other things. So explore doing that. Then you need, when we talked about expenses, I wanted to say that you have different apps that you can use. There's something they call Monify, you know, that you can use to track your expenses instead of doing it on paper. It's tedious, I must tell you, but it's worth it. It will help you see areas where you're spending anyhow so that you can curtail it. So for investment, I mean, if you go to, you have a lot with all these investment companies, but I can tell you, you can start with mutual funds at the base and you move over to maybe you buy land and other things. See that? So
whichever option you have chosen to go with, it's important to understand it. I remember one other experience we had, and you see, when I read The Richest Man in Babylon, it says that you don't give
money.
okay, so before you invest, you need to understand the risk, you need to understand the returns, you need to understand the peculiarities of that investment. Some time ago, I had some boys that grew up under me, so they were in school, and they came back and said, Uncle Chigi, there is fish pond business. Okay, I said, okay, what does it entail? They explained to us in their own language. Me, I didn't really understand how to do fish pond and everything. And we looked at it, so okay, it's a way to encourage them. I said, okay, we'll give you the money to go and do the fish pond. So they went.
Bring returns.
And bring returns. We trusted, of course, it's not that we don't trust them. So they went and started a bit. They were very, very enthusiastic about it. One day, you know, they came back from school and they were looking, you know, very worried. And I called him, I said, Bros, what's the issue? He said, the fishes have run away.
There was rain. So, and the place got flooded and the fish just swam. So which meant that all the money went with that flood.
Wow. You know, so, but the amount wasn't really very material. But it's another lesson.
You know.
Again, the takeaway from that experience was when these guys came, if it were today, I would have just sat them down and said, okay, can you explain to me end to end how you plan to run this? So in the process of understanding the flow, I will be able to pick where the risks are. And then I'll ask questions and see, do we have sufficient controls to mitigate this risk? If we don't have, clearly I will tell them, sorry, we can't get into this.
And no sentiment.
You know, and no sentiment. So a friend of yours can come to you and say, I have this, you know, lofty idea. I'm going to invest in this. And they can tell us of stories. It is your responsibility to say, okay, thank you for the information. I need to digest it and I'll come back to you. You don't make hasty decisions when it comes to investment. You will go think about it and ask yourself questions. can you go with this? If something goes wrong, do we have anything that you can fall back on to mitigate it? If you don't have such, and you prayerfully do it, then you'll be in a safe hand. But if you just go with sentiments, the end result might not be very interesting.
And then another thing I would say actually is that have your threshold, for risk. The truth is sometimes you have everything in place and things go wrong. So what I say is, at the back of your mind also, know that it is not because you've not done the due diligence that you lost money at a point in time. Because sometimes you've done everything. The most important thing is, whatever it is, pick yourself up and start your journey again. You will be okay.
Wow, it's getting hot here, and
It is
we're
getting literally
talking
hot, so
about money,
I've
and
not cracked any jokes since.
it's a serious talk.
Yes, so.
So we're right back on covenant marriages. We are still with the Okoros talking about managing finances in family. We'll be right back.
Covenant marriages.
Welcome back to Covenant Marriages. We are still talking about managing finance in family and in marriage. It's such an interesting time in the studio today, and I'm taking a lot of things in, like practical steps with the Okoross. Thank you so much for all the insight.
So thank you so much. We are really grateful for your time. You talked about mutual funds last time, ma. I just want to dig a little deep. So you say we shouldn't keep our money in the bank, and here is mutual fund. I'm keeping 35,000, 35,000. Is it not still the same thing with bank money?
Okay. Thank you. What I was trying to say is that when you keep your 35,000, over a period of time, it would grow. And I also mentioned that the interest is usually compounded. So it will grow faster than keeping it in the bank. So when you save consistently, I mentioned something about my pension that I realized is now double. As you do that consistently, by the end of the year, you would have more money to be able to invest in bigger things. Do you understand? So if you have 35,000, you have a plan in your mind or a goal to buy land. 35,000 naira, well, I don't expect to buy you land as of today. But if you have anything from 400, 500, 600, you should be able to buy a land. So if you save consistently, 35,000, 35,000, 35,000, over a period of time, you will be able to buy bigger things. So start small and you grow.
Thank you so much.
Well, you both shared a story about how you lost funds
Yes.
because
We lost funds.
yeah, due to investing on wrong investment. So how did you bounce back, and how can you encourage people who might have invested wrongly, ways to bounce back from such huge loss?
Okay, so yes, it's a painful experience, but that is not the end of life. What we did then was, I think the day it became clear to us when they started moving the repayment date and all that. So when we eventually got to know that we will not get the money back, we go back home, in our usual way, we sat down, we looked at it, we laughed. So yes, we did.
Yes, no.
So why did we laugh? We laughed because getting into such investment is not our usual style. Okay, so we felt that if we had been more cautious, we may not have gotten into it. That's number one. Number two, the question we asked ourselves was, even if we continue to brood over it, will we get it back? The answer is no. And so we said, okay, fine. One lesson we have learned, not to be foolish in our investment decisions. And then we continued our saving. That didn't stop us from building funds together.
Let me remind, I think you called the, what's it called, the caretaker. Then the guy,
Yeah.
for the rent. My husband called him and told him that, see, we will not be able to make the payments now. That he should give us some few months. And the reason why, and the guy agreed because prior to that time, we didn't used to default. In fact, my husband will call him ahead to pay his rent.
Wow.
So he had trust in him. And like I would say, face your fears. They won't run away if you don't face your fears. So we sat down and said, okay, what are the obligations? we needed to travel because we didn't want the visa to expire. What else? Rent is very important. What's the other thing that, okay, land.
The payment for the
that
land,
we
we're
needed to
paying
pay another
instrumentally.
installment. So what else? I think those were the three critical expenses we needed to pay. So what we did was my husband called the caretaker and told him, sorry, give us like, I think 4 months or something that will come back to you to pay the rent. For the travel, I have a friend, well, she was working with an, what's it called, travel agency. And I called her, I said, friend, this is the situation. Foolish decision, we need to travel. I don't even know what to do. And she just said, so if I called her to help me look for cheap tickets, I said, Mary, do you know what? And I told her everything. She said, don't worry, I'll pay for the ticket.
Wow.
We will go. And when you come back, you give me my money. That was exactly what happened. The third one, in fact, that one was funny. We were going to work and we're like, land, next installment. How do we call the person that is selling land to say we cannot pay? And you know, I just told my husband that, please, we can't kill ourselves. Worst case, they will say no. What will be worse than that? And we called the friend that brokered the transaction and said, see, bros, next installment, we don't have the money. So, but we're still interested in the land, and by so date, we'll be able to meet up with the obligation. And he said, okay, don't worry, I'll pay for it. And when you guys are ready, we'll come back.
So, is it one of the things that God has helped us to, the benefits to enjoy, was He gave us that grace to be able to put ourselves in a position where people can trust us. And that is being transparent with people. The rent she talked about, what we did then was, my housing allowance usually come in March. So the rent, then will become due by end of May. And so each time that amount comes in and it's sufficient to cover the rent, we don't touch it. No matter what is happening, we put it in a fixed deposit account. And why do we do that? I won't go and give the landlord money 2 months before it becomes due, because I also want to enjoy the time value of that money. So we put it in fixed deposit account. Even if it's 10 naira that we make as interest between that March and May, I'm interested in it. So by the end of May, I will call him and I will write a check and go to his office and deliver it. And that happened consistently over some couple of years. So when I called him and I said, your rent is due in about a week's time. By tradition, I should come to you, 6 days from now. But I have a situation that will make it challenging for me to pay. Can you give me, I think it was 3 months. Can you give me 3 months?
Wow.
So he wasn't worried about the rent. He was worried about me. So he started asking questions. Are you okay? Is everything all right with your family? I said, we're fine. But we just had some challenges we needed to deal with. So we're able to. So that's our friend that actually connected us with the person selling land. We told him what happened. He was laughing. So it's just like God putting you in a circle of people that during situations like that, they will rise up for you. Okay?
And that's why I said, for a believer, you cannot be stranded. God will always come through for you. So,
but the message here is, no matter how hard you fall, it looks as if that is the end of the world. So long as you're a child of God, just do not see it as the end of the road. Look up to God and ask Him what next. Because He holds your hands, your life in His hands. And if you sincerely ask Him, He will direct you.
And, trust, standing on what my husband has said as a background, then you now take your practical steps, which is identify the key exposures. Yes, you're falling down. Who are the people you are owing money? Write everything down in details. It is better to face your fear than to run away. You will lose credibility. So write those things down and ask yourself, from where you are as of today, how can you pick yourself up again? So engaging with people would help. Go to each person. Tell them, yes, you acknowledge that you have failed, but can we please restructure this loan? can we please restructure the, deliverable
Obligation.
debt, obligation? And then you look at yourself and say, okay, how much do I earn now? How can I structure it to make sure that I meet up
That.
with that commitment? And if you take it one step at a time, with God on your side, you will bounce back.
Wow. Thank you
You
so
sure
much
do.
for this insight. I felt like I've bounced back already.
You're
you
bouncing.
know. But there's a critical issue that we find in these days. I mean, when you started to speak, you said that it is dangerous for him to be alone when you first got married, that you were here. God created you to help, and so the evil man in him, you helped him to cool that down. However, what we find now is that many women are earning more than their husbands, that they are supposed to be helping. So they have now become the giants, and the husband has become the helper. Ma, I don't know if you have anything to say, or sir, both of you have anything to say on this issue, and how would you help such man and woman to navigate this period?
All right. In the current economic situation we're at globally, you know that women are now empowered
Yes.
more than before. And it's possible for a wife to earn more than a husband. There is nothing wrong with that, I would say, because I've experienced it. It becomes a problem where the man now takes the back seat and now begin to look up to the woman for everything. Probably making the woman an ATM you use to draw. There is nothing wrong in having a woman to support the man, especially when she's earning more. But it becomes a challenge, especially to the woman. She begins to feel used if the man depends on her for everything. That's number one. Number two, conflict will arise under that situation where the couple, we started by saying oneness. If they're still operating individually and they've not seen themselves as one, and for other things that relate to the marriage relationship, they have not come to terms with the fact that whatever we have in this family belongs to the family and it's meant to be used for the benefit of the family. Then conflict will arise. Then, building up from that, you discover that the man, when the woman begins to notice that, okay, this man is now taking undue advantage of me, okay, and begins to behave in a particular way, the man feels disrespected, and then there's conflict. Situations like this will arise, but what do we recommend that should be done? First of all, that oneness is important. Husband and wife, see yourself as one, working together towards the same goal. Number two, irrespective of who earns what, see that this is for the family. And I will share an experience with you. We started, like I explained earlier, that we're together in the firm, and we joined as qualified trainees, right?
Yeah, we're
so,
both qualified
and we are all
accountants.
earning the same. Both of us were earning same amount. Okay, you're on your own, I'm on my own. So we are friends. When we got married, okay, shortly before we got married, because of policy in the firm that if you're going to marry in the firm, one of you will have to leave, or you don't change your name. And she said she cannot marry and not change her name. So it's a different story. I don't want to get into it, but God opened the door for her. She left. And when she left, the offer she got was almost twice what I was earning. Wow. And we were getting married. Okay. And before that time, I was one of those that said, my wife can never earn more than me. That I can't stand it. Getting married to a woman that earns more than me, she will not respect, that kind of mentality. She won't respect me. She will feel, that means I have failed, And I think God wanted to teach me a lesson, that it's not about you. It's all about you, that Chigozie, trusting him for whatever you need. Wow. So when she started earning, I saw the letter, and we rejoiced for two reasons. One, she has a job she can really move into before we get married. Secondly, she's earning more. But the truth is that we never had that conflict. We never did. Number one, we still maintain, even when we got married, that list we drew from the beginning, we continued. That, okay, this is what your contribution, what she said she will contribute to the budget, to the pot. And I said, look, I will make it up. We kept it and we're running with it. But what she did was, where we run into a situation where there is a bit of pressure in terms of bills to be paid, she will step in and cover it. And her parents, if not even my own people, knew that she was earning more than me. Okay, because we resolved from the beginning that this marriage is between us, both of us, and God. So if we have any need, it's God we go to direct us on how to resolve it. And that's the model we ran. So for a very long time, she was earning more than me, and she did not disrespect me, and I did not make her my ATM card. But she knew when to step in to support. That's one. Then, at some point, then there was,
Let me come. Sorry.
okay.
Sorry. I would want to say that, you see, when it comes to the woman earning more, I would always advise the woman that you need to be very careful. Because, I mean, this is how many years after? After, I think I was earning more than my husband for years, as in years. But for me, it wasn't even an issue of who was earning more or whatever. What was important is we needed to settle, the bills and all that. And I don't think it was glaring, in terms of maybe anybody knew. In fact, for Tunji, that was very close to us. He never knew until years after when my husband actually mentioned it. So we're just living our lives. The most important thing is money was coming out. And if we needed to pay bills, it was the one that was going to pay the bill. So nobody knew. In fact, I'm sure some people thought that I was not earning anything anyway. But you see, for me, looking at where my husband is now compared to what I'm earning, I mean, I'm sure my husband is earning maybe 3 times or 2 times more than what I'm earning. And the question I ask myself is, when I had the number of years I was earning more than him, if I'd misbehaved, of course we're Christians, but I can imagine what it will be like. I mean, now I practically don't, in terms of everyday running, I practically don't spend my money.
Wow.
Do you understand? Because he can afford to do it. So I only come in when I feel, okay, there's a project. In fact, there are projects now that I don't even have to. I only just come in because I want to come in. I'm like, I have to be part of this thing. Or, sometimes when I'm slacking behind and I'm telling myself, Mary, you went to school, you did the exam. So please don't do yourself. As in, just make sure that you are the best that you can be. So managing that phase for every woman is important. And my husband said something. If a man is in that state, please don't remain in that state. Because every woman wants to look up to their husband. Don't remain there. Make it a transition. And I can tell you, if you work at it, you will be better. And you can actually live with the woman, making more than the man. And trusting God that, both of you will be so wealthy that it won't even matter who is earning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, on a final note, what are some things you talk about or you enjoy doing when you're not talking about finances?
When you're not having family meetings.
Family meeting.
The truth is, we're boring.
No, I don't believe it.
No, but on a serious note, we gist a lot. I mean, we were working together at Deloitte. So, I mean, I know a lot of people in his office. My husband can tend to be very serious, he's an auditor. They are very serious people, So, most times we talk about, what do we talk about?
Well, we talk about the children, we talk about
future, travel.
What do you spend about, apart from, do you?
So when it comes to spending, I said it before, that
I can't go.
in fact, she goes out of her way. When we go out, she will say, you need this, you need it. I said, no, look at the amount involved. We can use this money.
In fact, when my husband gets to the store, or any store, the first thing he checks is the price tag. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't do that. When I go into a store, I go to whatever I want. I'm not bothered about the price tag. Let me even fulfill that feeling of, yes, I
want
like
it,
this
I
thing.
like it.
Then it is now left for me to decide if I can afford it now or I'm coming back later. Do you understand? My husband, the moment, if I to enter the store and he's thinking that that place is expensive, he doesn't want to enter. I'm like, bros, come here. This thing, we will buy it, you know. So in terms of, like I said, spending is very conservative. For me, I want to express my desire. Look at it. Okay, Mary, can you afford this now? Okay, you will come back. But that I won't feel, you know, there's this feeling that you have when you look at what you want. My husband does not even want to look at it. So, you know, that's it. But in terms of, okay, we go out. So we do quarterly, you know,
Date
lunch.
nights.
No, with
Or
the children.
lunch.
With the
We take the
children,
out.
we take the children out. There was time we were doing monthly, but after COVID, you know, we changed it to quarterly because we're not going out as much. So then sometimes we just go out, I mean, have nice time with the children, though they've accused us that we're very boring, that we don't go out as much as we should be. So maybe that's one of the things we really need to work on. But generally, we just talk, but we talk more on work,
Wow.
family, church.
Thank
know,
you.
just
Thank you. Thank
is
you. Thank you so
amazing.
much for the education and financial management. I feel like an accountant. I'm joking. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you.
God will help us. And
Yeah.
sincerely, thank you so much for having us.
It's
And
very good. Thank
I mean, my husband has been very, very good. You know, it makes working in marriage in terms of finance for a woman very easy. Because,
Amazing.
so I'm saying thank you.
Oh, and she said it on
No, this hasn't happened.
That is not part of managing financial marriage.
No, but it has entered.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you.
So, on behalf of Covenant Marriages, we have a gift
Sneak
for you. Amazing. Wow.
This is beautiful.
It's beautiful. Should we share?
Of course, we
Yes.
have to share.
So, we would like to say thank you for.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So,
Thank
this
you.
is yours. Thank you so much for
Daddy
a good
Gio and
time.
Mommy Gio.
Thank you.
Thank you
Ah,
so
this is
much.
nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on that note, we'd like to thank you to our
thank
viewers
you.
for being there with us along this journey. I'm sure you've learned one or two things, or not one or two things. You've learned a lot on how to plan your finances, whether you're married or not. Please do share this video, like, subscribe on our YouTube channel, The Covenant Nation. You find Covenant Marriages under the playlist. And then do follow us on all social media platforms at Covenant Marriages, at Covenant Marriages. Until we come your way next time, we would like to say bye.